Let's get more on this now with Greg Swenson, who's a political analyst. He joins us now live from London. Welcome to TRT World. I just want to get your take on these bold comments that we've heard from President Netanyahu saying that Israel would make its own decisions. This, of course, in reply to President Biden. And, of course, the National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir saying that Israel is not another star on the US flag. What do you make of these statements?
Yeah, I suppose I wasn't really surprised that President Biden stepped into this. He's got a bad habit of doing so. He did that with Liz Truss, the Prime Minister here in the UK, when she proposed supply side economics into the budget back in September, and he stepped into that, and it wasn't very polite by any means, but it was also an opportunity for him to use foreign policy to criticize his domestic enemies or his opponents in the U.S. political system. So I suppose I wasn't surprised. He often attacks a judicial review from independent courts in America. I think obviously he favors, the left-leaning Supreme Court in Israel and will take any opportunity to criticize courts at home in the U.S. that take a more constitutionalist or traditional view as not being activists from the bench. So none of these things really surprised me, Maria.
But Greg, what would also not surprise a lot of people would be the fact that a lot that Israel says a lot that the US says to Israel is not really acted upon, is it? Even if we think about what is said with regards to the occupied Palestinian territories. So would this be any different?
Probably not, and I think it does suggest that the relationship between President Biden as well as the relationship with President Obama and Israel wasn't quite as positive as it has been over the generations. And you saw much better relations when President Trump was in office, and as Netanyahu mentioned the Abraham Accords, that was a big step. But any opportunity that President Biden has to criticize the prior administration, he'll do that. And if that means making relationships with our best allies, notably the United Kingdom and Israel, and either criticizing those countries like he did with Prime Minister Truss back in September or with Netanyahu here, he'll do that. And it's unfortunate, but it's, I think, a minor speed bump in a long-term relationship, and I thought that Netanyahu made that point very well.
Is it just a minor speed bump in a long-term relationship, as you say, or behind the scenes? Do you think there will be more pressure, that President Biden will be applying more pressure on Netanyahu and his coalition? Because I mean, it's been incredible. Of course, we know that this has been the judicial reform has been postponed, but the country was paralyzed. Flights weren't taking off. The ports were closed. Only emergency patients were being seen in hospitals. Incredible demonstrations. And that could all happen again after May.
Yeah, Maria, it's a great point. It was really amazing to see just the almost the shutdown of the country. Even here in the UK, the diplomatic corps from Israel were not working on Monday. And so it was really amazing. But in many ways, I think what President Biden should have done was talk about how the democratic institutions actually worked. Yes, there were protests. Yes, people were upset, but it actually worked when Netanyahu stepped back. There's no doubt. I think the other point that President Biden might have made, if he was a little bit more constructive and not just looking for an opportunity to criticize politicians on the right in both countries, but he could have talked about the need for a written constitution. That's something that he should be very proud about, that the American model is based on a written constitution that was written at our founding. So that was probably a mistake that Israel made in 1948, but I think that would have been a constructive criticism or something that was a little bit more helpful.
All right. Greg, we will leave it there, but great to get your analysis. Thank you so much for your time too. Greg Swenson, a political analyst, joining us live from London. Thank you.